If you're thinking about moving to Norfolk, Virginia in 2025, I want you to slow down a minute. This is not a hype piece, but more so things that people usually find out after they move to Norfolk, things they wish they would have considered prior to. And in this video, I want to break down all the things that I think matters the most, and I'm giving you my 7 reasons why I think this could be the wrong choice for you in moving to Norfolk, Virginia in 2025. So if this is our first time meeting, my name is Craig Houston. I'm a local realtor with the Moving to Norfolk team, and we get phone calls and text messages from viewers like you each and every week, and I love every single moment of it. So whether you're moving in 9 days or you're moving in 90 days, feel free to give us a call, shoot me a text anytime. I really mean it. Shoot me a text or give me a call at any time at 757-294-8163. And if you're looking to learn everything that you need to know about the Norfolk, Virginia market, this is why I want to encourage you to go ahead and subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so that way you can be the first to learn about any and everything that's taking place in Norfolk, Virginia. So let's dive directly into the 7 reasons why Norfolk, Virginia could be the wrong choice for you in 2025. And we're going to start and kick this thing off with just the aging housing inventory. That is the most important thing I think that we're going to talk about in this video, simply because this is a moving to relocation video series. So when it comes down to Norfolk, Virginia, you got great places that's always going to be a standpoint in Norfolk, like Colonial Place, over in actually the East Beach area, East Ocean View, which is under great development right now. There's going to be ideal scenarios that's going to take place where these homes are going to be the ideal fit for you. But a lot of times, buyers who actually relocate to this market don't take into account how old Norfolk, Virginia really is. We're going to have tremendous inventory that's going to be built prior to 1970. And with that being the case, that sometimes leads to challenges. And a lot of other cases that leads to where you're going to see homes that are going to be more of a flip opportunity for potential investors who have purchased the home and now making the updates that's needed to actually put it back on the open market for future buyers to actually purchase. Now, in certain cases, this can be a downfall to a lot of neighborhoods, and a lot of people don't like some of these things. A lot of times, a lot of buyers won't turnkey properties, and in certain cases, this just does not fit the mold in Norfolk, Virginia. And then you could be susceptible to a lot more things in this market, where you got to understand that even though homes built before 1970 are going to be well more susceptible to lead paint, then we had the galvanized pipe movement, then you have lead pipes in certain parts of crawl spaces in certain parts of these homes. So there's an aging inventory that could really lead to a lot of thought processes that can make you feel like it may not be the ideal fit for you. But realistically, on the other side of this coin as well too, a lot of people love this historical feel of these aging inventory homes when it comes down to it. Where you can actually find the right home that fits the lifestyle that you're looking for, and it provides you the amenities that you need. A lot of times, having premier locations at beaches and having premier locations to walkability in areas like Ghent makes this a situation where a lot of buyers can actually say, you know what, not only does the historical charm of Norfolk appeal to me, but the draw of having the walkability of having things in the local community with me makes it an even more fitting fit for them. So I think it's just going to be a little bit of a give and take when it comes down to this market. But realistically, you can find exactly what it is that you're looking for if you're actually giving yourself a chance to actually recognize what Norfolk is really for. And if you're actually in the military, aging housing inventory can really play a factor here as well too, because you want to be able to have a home that's going to be very much so that you're going to be able to resell quickly in a neighborhood if you have to move due to impromptu PCS orders. So I think a lot of times that takes into consideration. But what you also have the benefit for you is being able to rent out these properties as well in the future to actually draw your own investment income. And if you're able to take advantage of that type of situation as well in this local market, it cannot be that bad of a fit in certain cases. So I think there's a lot of give and take when it comes to the aging inventory market that we have here. And I think that's always something to take into consideration moving forward, whether that's a good thing for you or a bad thing for you. It just depends on what side of the fence it comes down to with the ways you view aging inventory. Reason number 2 may not come as a shock to you in any way, because if you know anything about Norfolk, Virginia, you know it's home to one of the largest military installations in the world when it comes to the Navy. And with that, for the Navy to set sail, it has to be surrounded by water, and for that to be the case, Norfolk, Virginia has to be one of those areas that's going to be very susceptible to flood zones, and with flood zones come insurance costs as well that you have to take into consideration. Norfolk in certain cases can be just above sea level in a lot of these places around, and Norfolk has a lot of areas that is going to actually show up inside the FEMA flood maps, which gets updated regularly over time. Now, with this associated cost that you're going to have if you're using a mortgage to actually purchase a home, you're going to be required to carry flood insurance. Now, I have seen sometimes where buyers have feel comfortable with a certain price point and actually making that monthly payment every month. But when it comes down to it, if you have to take into consideration flood insurance costs, those are starting to go up over time with so many more areas being susceptible to flood damage over time. So, of course, flood premiums continue to increase multiple times a year, sometimes in certain cases, because these flood maps update so much that you may not be able to afford that same comfortability factor that you thought you had at one point in time at a certain price point if you were taking in consideration flood insurance as well too. So I think this is one of the things that a lot of people just don't give it enough thought about, and it's not predominant in a lot of areas as well. Like, you may be in the South, but you may be in the northern part of the South as well too, where like if you're in areas like Huntsville or you're in areas like Atlanta, you may not ever see a situation that comes into play where you have to worry about flood insurance. So with that being the case, it's one of those things where you just need to be aware of it. And then if you're working with our team, we're definitely going to make sure that we talk to you about it, and we want to make sure that you end up with the best practice when it comes down to flood insurance in the first place. Now, one of the things that can be manageable too is that depending on the seller that you may be working with when you put an offer in, if they already have flood insurance and their premiums may be a little bit more high for on your end of trying to purchase it, it's always a good tip to try to see if you are able to assume the previous seller's home flood insurance policy that they already was paying into. Because if that's the case, you can at least pick up the payment where they was at versus having to start over on a new premium that's going to have a higher premium price to it, maybe $250 to $500 price tag extra on top if you're trying to procure that yourself. So that's a pro tip that you may want to take into consideration if you're thinking about flood insurance. Reason number 3 is going to have to be dealing with traffic and the commute experience that you can have in Norfolk, Virginia. Really and truly, when it comes down to Norfolk, man, I can always tell you one of the things I dreaded the most when relocating to this area was going to be just simply the traffic. Now, let me paint the picture for you before. I used to live in Hampton, Virginia when we first lived here from 03 to 2014 predominantly, 2011 predominantly. And what we saw during that time frame was, man, the HRBT, the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel, continuously stayed jam-packed with traffic, and in certain cases a 15 to 20 minute commute to Norfolk Naval Station would turn into sometimes up to a 2-hour commute just to get home when you're only about a 15-mile commute away in the first place, which is crazy. So I realistically thought about this a lot when we moved back to this area, that I did not want to be halted by a bridge in any way from getting home at a long, arduous work day. So I really want to talk to you about traffic is something that you really got to consider when you're relocating to this area, or you're already living in the area you're considering Norfolk, Virginia. I really want you to understand that even though there's the Merrimack Bridge Tunnel, the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel, Virginia Beach, even getting from places like Newport News, you really have to know if traffic is not going to be an issue for you. And if it is, I really want you to map out those times, not just the going and saying, hey, I'm going to work at 9 o'clock. Make sure that you're looking at the high peak traffic time. If you're living in Norfolk or you're commuting to Norfolk, high peak traffic time in that area is always going to be about 5 to 7 a.m. in the morning. And then it's going to be the same from 1500 for military, 3 p.m. for civilians, to about 1700 or 5 p.m. local time as well. And I think this is where you want to see what the traffic flow really looks like, because this can make or break your decision making in relocating to this particular part of the city versus any other parts of the city. Now, don't get me wrong, other parts of the city definitely have their challenges as well too, but when you're a piece of city that lives and surrounded by water, this makes it even more predominant because you have to travel across that water to get to other parts of the 757. So that's something that you really want to take into consideration. And I always talk to people about the commute times are really up in the air, just depending on where you're trying to go. Because realistically, you can get anywhere in 20 to 25 minutes on the south side of town, which means that you're going from Norfolk to Portsmouth, Norfolk to Virginia Beach, Norfolk to Chesapeake, and it's about a 30-minute commute from Norfolk to Suffolk, Virginia. But if you're going across that Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel, or maybe you have to go all the way around to the Merrimack Bridge Tunnel, which is a complete commute that you don't want to make if you're already in Norfolk, Virginia, it can really get challenging. So it's really something that you want to take into consideration as one of the main things that you want to consider about what's happening in the local market of the 757. Reason number 4 is going to be about public school variety. Now, don't get me wrong. I know that if you are you're relocating to this market and you have young kids in whatever grade they may be in, schools is always going to be something that's going to be important to those parents. And really and truly, it's not something to ever skim over. Now, really and truly, I really want to make sure that you understand that I, as a real estate agent who's licensed professional, cannot give you details about exactly what schools are maybe prioritizing and how they may impact the communities and things of that nature. I just want you to understand that you need to do your research, and I stress looking at websites like greatschools.org or niche.com and looking into the research, and even really and truly picking the phone up and calling these schools is going to be something that's going to make it an ideal situation for you to feel comfortable with the decision that you're making about where you're actually living. Like, Norfolk does have some strong schools in that market, but you really have to just do, like I said, do your research into figuring out exactly what is the best points for you in those communities. I think also when it comes down to schools, you have to also take into consideration that it's about the community that you're trying to foster around your kids and putting them in a situation where they can actually exceed expectations when it comes to education. So I think that's really going to be one of those things where you have to actually have face-to-face communication with the schools to understand exactly what it is that they are offering, how they can prioritize your child, taking into consideration the student to teacher ratios per classroom. All those things are factors, and I really hope that you take the time and the initiative to do the research by looking into niche.com or other resources like that to make a great decision about those. What I would do is I'll leave niche.com link down below, and also greatschools.org as well too, so you can go directly into those websites from our webpage to actually figure out exactly what it is that you're looking for when it comes to prioritizing school for your school-based age children. Reason number 5 is going to be property taxes and what people consider city budget gaps. Now, the property tax rate in Norfolk, Virginia right now, it sits around about $1.25 per every $100. So you take that into account of what your actual tax payment could be every month on your real estate taxes. It could be somewhat, some people may consider substantially higher than most, but then also the property tax rate that they're seeing does not really transfer to what the city infrastructure is providing. Norfolk is still bridging the gap on city infrastructure, and I think this is why a lot of people have concerns at. Well, what are some of the things that people are looking at right now that they have concern with? Still seeing potholes in the areas, still seeing that the city drainage system is still backed up just a bit on heavy rain days, and then just municipal services overall is a lot of things that people indicate that they would like to see done better in the Norfolk market. And I appreciate that, and I can actually understand the reason why. So I think over time you're going to see that the real estate rates or tax rates are going to continue to actually either stay the same or soften. But really and truly what you're seeing is as your equity increase, you're seeing that tax rate increase as well. Both things could be true, that the home that you're actually owning is actually becoming way more valuable, and it's taking a little bit more effort from the city to maintain the infrastructure around your home. I think both those things can actually run parallel to one another, and that can make it to where people may feel like there is a gap that's actually taking place right now, but that gap is going to be hard to catch up when people, when the city is actually trying to take into account that they want to make sure that the affordability of the real estate taxes for their constituents is not that much harder than it actually needs to be. So we'll see how long this continuously progresses going further, but realistically I want to also make sure that you understand when it comes down to property tax rates, regardless of where you're actually purchasing the home at, you want to make sure you take in consideration the future value of what your tax assessments could be and how that can impact your future affordability affordability, especially for those who are on fixed income who are purchasing homes. You want to make sure you understand that within your budget, because if your escrow payment continues to increase over time, you could start to see that the affordability factor that you had in place is not maintaining the level of comfort that you would like, and we do not want that for you. So I think this is one of the things that you really want to make sure that you're paying attention to over time, and really and truly accounting for it as much as you possibly can as you're making a wise decision to either one, move to Norfolk, Virginia, or another part of the 757. Reason number 6 is going to be HOAs, or even the lack of a HOA community in Norfolk, Virginia. Now, either way, on either side of the coin, people may find they like HOAs, the others may find that they don't want to have anything to do with that, and that's perfectly fine. Now, in your older, more mature communities within Norfolk, you may find them tending to lean more towards no HOA. And when you come to those, that's one of the things that people have concern about when they don't have to live in an HOA, is that you can actually find more lots that's going to have overgrown lawns. You may find more lots that's going to have boats and other unsightly things in their yard that you have to deal with as a neighbor, and you may feel in certain cases it may impact your property value over time because of what the people may have as a perception of your particular neighborhood. Well, and also in the same case as well too, when it comes down to strict HOAs, you can see it where it becomes one of the things where you can't even put out the right holiday decor without nobody actually complaining to you about it. So I think you got to find the right fit for yourself, and this is why it's important to take the 3 days to review the HOA bylaws that you have as a right as a person who's purchasing a home within a HOA community. Because if you don't, then you don't take advantage of making sure that you're understanding what the rules are. If you can comply with those rules, if you don't want to deal with them, then you have the right to walk away from that property and get your earnest money deposit back. So I really truly think this is one of the things that you want to make sure that you're doing your due diligence with when it comes down to HOAs. HOAs can play a very important role in maintaining good order and discipline and making sure that your property value increases over time. Of course, there's some that could go a little bit above the reach and overreach and be overbearing in certain cases, but also in certain situations that certain neighborhoods can police themselves without a HOA and actually be great neighbors to one another. But you also have those wide ends of the spectrum where things that you don't want to deal with may happen, but in a lot of other cases, you don't even see those things becoming a factor at all. Number 7 is going to be redevelopment is ongoing, and most of it is not complete right now. But let me take a step back before I really get into the deep end of what's going on in Norfolk. Across the 757, we're starting to see a change. Like I said at the height of this video before, is that a lot of this stuff predates 1970, and a lot of things have been in place since the early 90s, and now we're starting to see a lot of changes starting to happen in the 757, and they're going to take time. And that leads me back into what I got to say about Norfolk. Right now, we're seeing projects that's actually ongoing right now in the local community of Norfolk, Virginia, like Military Circle Mall is under redevelopment right now to figure out exactly how to best use all that land that's available right there. And then it's even down in St. Paul's near downtown area, and the downtown area itself is all still undergoing redevelopment as well. I think what we're seeing right now is that the pace of change is going to take time, and that could affect how certain people view Norfolk, Virginia. Right now, it may not be in the place where they wanted to be at, but also, like I said, about anything that we talked about with the Chesapeake Square scenario over in Western Branch of Chesapeake, Virginia. Where do you want to be at when it comes down to this redevelopment stage? Do you want to be at the tail end of the redevelopment stage where all the equity and value has already been priced into homes or into those communities and you missed the boat there? Or do you want to be catching the ride up to the peak point where you can actually ride your equity up and be able to be in a position where you may be able to, one, do two things: either cash out and upgrade to a next property, or even downsize to a property if you really want to do that as well, or two, turn that into an investment property where you can now reap the benefits of having a lower payment premium for your mortgage and capitalizing on the rent that you can demand from a well redeveloped community. Now, there's always going to be other things that you should view and take into consideration in this, but redevelopment to me means that a city is trying to be prosperous, that they're trying their best to take advantage of the opportunity in front of them to actually build a better infrastructure community for their citizens as well too. So I think that you got to give yourself a little bit of time to actually study up own these things and understand what's exactly going on with the redevelopment projects that's actually happening, not only in Norfolk, Virginia, but across the 757 altogether as well too. Now, if you want to know this type of information and you want to stay abreast of what's really going on, this is really why I want you to go ahead and subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell, because anything that's majorly moving across the 757, that's something that you should know about. We are going to bring it to you regardless of the time of day that it happens. So make sure that you're locked in with us by going ahead and subscribing to the channel, and we appreciate you for being with us each and every step of the way. Norfolk does have a lot going for it, with waterfront living, being a great military location town, and still having opportunities for growth potential in the local market. I really think that it does have a few drawbacks that some people just need to consider, and we don't want you to make a mistake in not knowing these things up front. If you're really considering making that move to Norfolk, Virginia, or any other part of the 757, this is why I want you to make sure that you reiterate to you that you need to pick up the phone, give us a call, shoot us a text at any time, 757-294-8163. And I hope that you found value in this content today. And if you have, definitely hit us with a like, comment, and share this video out as much as possible for those who can take advantage of knowing this information. Any time of the day that you need our help, we look forward to helping you make that smooth move to Norfolk, Virginia, and we'll catch you in the next video. Y'all stay safe. Peace.